Hey, cats and kittens, this is Michael Lockwood, and you are listening to the Nothing Shocking podcast with Jeff and Eric.
Want to know what's going on in the world of music? Then tune in to the Nothing Shocking podcast, a non-genre based, all-ages friendly rock and roll program. Join us weekly for interviews with all your favorite rock stars from the mainstream to the underground. You can find us at nothingshocking.libsyn.com or anywhere you download podcasts.
We're putting the band back together.
The numbers all go to 11.
I'm talking about bands that rock. Led Zeppelin. What about Sabbath? AC/DC. Motorhead.
Does that mean it's louder? Is it any louder?
Well, it's one louder, isn't it?
We're not worthy! We're not worthy!
Why don't you just make 10 louder and make 10 be the top number and make that a little louder?
These go to 11.
I get up off the ground and raise my head. Days like this, think I should be dead. One for Satan, two for me. Let's cheat the devil, it's fun, don't you agree?
Welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'm your co-host, Jeff Untied, and with me in Dog Bowl Studios is
Coach Nez.
You can find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Libsyn or any podcatchers. Like our Facebook page or follow us on Twitter at NoShockPod.
You can also find the Nothing Shocking podcast on Rock Rage Radio every Sunday morning at 7 a.m. Central Time. Our sponsor is Ragged Records, located in downtown Rock Island, Illinois, and downtown Davenport, Iowa. We'd like to thank the Hong Kong Sleepover for allowing us to use their music for our intro and bumper ending. Tonight's guest is
Michael Lockwood,
producer,
guitarist, formerly of Lions and Ghosts.
Yes, right now he is promoting his newest film score of the movie As the Village Sleeps. And what else was he promoting?
He recently formed in 2022 Sparkle Plenty Records with manager Jeff Keller, and they are going to be releasing music that he's from his past and from bands he's producing.
Yeah, man. Hey, let's get to that interview.
All right.
Good night. Michael, welcome to the Nothing Shocking podcast. I'd like to introduce you, my co-host, Jeff Untied.
Michael, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thank you. Good to talk to you, Jeff.
Well, you have the greatest PR person in the world. We're so glad that you joined us tonight. And she made this happen, so we're excited to have you.
I'm excited to be here, and you are correct. Wendy is the greatest.
She is. She truly is. So this past October, indie film As the Village Sleeps was released. You created the score for this film. Can you talk a little bit more about the creative process in order to score this movie?
Sure. Well, the thing is, it was a tiny independent film that was started before we had lockdown. Mm-hmm. And as they finished the film, most of our worlds turned upside down, right?
Right.
And the director of the film, who I've known for a long time, and he's made a bunch of little independent films, and he called me and he said, "Would you be interested?" And before he finished the sentence, I was like, "Yes," because I love movie music. I love the composition. I love the mood. I love the way that it could change a happy movie to a sad movie, a sad movie to a scary movie, whatever it is. And I've always been I'm a rabid music fan and collector. And one of my favorite genres is movie music and soundtracks. And especially, I'm really fond of the sort of later 70s, early 80s electronic scores. For whatever reason, that really resonates with me, whether it's Giorgio Moroder, who had a big run then, Vangelis, John Carpenter, all that kind of stuff. I just really, really love. And so when I had the opportunity and it was explained to me that this was a horror film, I jumped at the chance. Even though I didn't know what the hell I was doing, I figured out that I will somehow get there in the end. And so just as I started, we went into lockdown, which was, I found really interesting to be working on a film that was all about isolation. Mm-hmm. I don't know if you guys have seen the film, but these kids are sort of isolated in the forest at one of their dad's summer houses. So it really wasn't a horror film. It was more of a psychological thriller. And I have a home studio, and we were sort of locked down at home, and I would stay up all night. I wasn't sleeping anyway. So I would work on this film, and I was isolated. The film was isolated, and the music really quickly became sort of cold and isolated, and I really was happy to go down the electronic path. And the director of the film sort of indulged me, and he said, I'm just, you have great taste. So I just went, very deep down that avenue. And it wasn't until I was about, I don't know, a quarter of the way through the film, I thought, I wonder if I should be sharing this with the director. And perhaps I should get the okay that I've gone down this path. So I sent it to him, and he was really happy and had, bits of feedback for me, which was great because he has scored films, and he's sort of a Renaissance guy. He writes a movie, he directs a movie, he produces the movie, and then he does the music for it. So it was really freeing, and I was able to do that process. And I also had a side project that I was doing simultaneously called Francis DeVout and the New Spiritualists, which is sort of an electronic new wave project that I do with a singer. His name is Grant Nobleman. So I included some actual pieces of music along with the score, and we released that on my label Sparkle Plenty that was created also during the lockdown. So it's my pandemic story, it's my Sparkle Plenty story, it's my I am now a film composer story. It's all in one.
Oh, very good.
Nice. I guess I'm just more interested in it when you're composing. Do you get some sneak peeks of the movie itself, or do you just get ideas or storyboards of what it's going to happen and work off of that?
Well, in this case, the movie was mostly completed, and they would send me. He sent me originally like a rough cut of the movie. I got that, and I'm if you're a musician or a home recording enthusiast, you probably have some sort of DAW that you use to record with, and I use a program called Logic, and it's very simple to sort of throw in any sort of movie or video footage. Nice. So I put it in and I sort of mapped it out. I watched the whole movie a few times with zero music and some dialogue missing and some funny edits and stuff, but I got a sense of what it was and got a sense of what the characters were like. And then, because I didn't know what I was doing, which is normally the case, I started at the beginning of the film and I worked sequentially.
Nice.
So I just chose to work that way. And for me, that was really great because I was able to develop themes for characters, themes for situations, and I could intertwine those. And as the movie went on, I was able to collage them together, which in the end, I'm happy I was able to do that because I was able to tell a story with sound from the beginning to the end. And I kind of thought of it to me like a book or a song or anything. But when I work on music, I think of things in bookends. I think of a beginning. I think about introductions. I think about having peaks, revisiting those peaks. And then I usually, by the end of a song or the movie, I tend to generally put all my themes together to remind everybody of the themes that they had heard earlier. So I did treat it like a giant song. It was an interesting journey for me, and a learning one, and a cathartic one. That was, very therapeutic to do that during the lockdown. And it's funny, I worked on it off and on for a year, so it was a lot of fun.
With your involvement in the music side of film and TV and commercial, can you kind of talk about the challenges that writing music brings to you when scoring movies, TV programs, commercials? Do you ever have any musical writer's block?
Oh God, there's no wood in my car to knock on. No, I haven't. I'm fortunate that I haven't had any writer's block in that department. I certainly have for writing songs, and sometimes that writer's block lasts years. But for working in that medium, I didn't, because I think that for me, it's not something that I do for a living. And when I worked on film music with Aimee Mann, and when we did commercials together, we worked on movies together, we worked on TV shows together. It was a very interesting experience because it started out song-based, and when she asked me to work on, there was this movie she did that was directed by Michael Mann, and it was a movie called Enough with Jennifer Lopez. I remember. There you go. And Aimee was asked to write a song for the movie. So she came to me with a song idea, and it was, like acoustic guitar. And I think she may have only had a verse at that point when she played it for me. So I started messing around with some loops, and we were just beginning work on Lost in Space, the album that I produced for her. And we built this little thing, this little song, and I think she took it to Michael and played it for him because she had that kind of relationship with him. Mm-hmm. And he loved the song. So once we got the green light for the song and the idea, I started working on soundscapes for the song, and it sounds like a lot of the soundscapes that we did in Lost in Space. And so we played him an early version that I worked on, and he liked it so much that he came to us and he said to me, is there any way for you to now score 2 minutes of music in the middle of the song? Kind of a strange request. Mm-hmm. So what happened was he sent us footage of the movie where the song was going to go. And it was going to be an in-credit song, but it was also halfway through the movie. And it's a scene where she feels sort of safe and has some freedom, and she's in a house and enjoying family because she's on the run from somebody. And so it starts out with the song, and then I crafted 2 or 3 minutes of music that was reminiscent of the song, or ended up being big chunks of the song in the end. So I got to do a mini score, and that was the first time I'd ever got to do that. So that was new and exciting. And to answer your question, the thing is, it's like every time I get to work on TV or a commercial or a movie, for me it's really new, really exciting, and it's very inspiring because it's a different medium for me. So at this point, for me, it's easier than working on a song.
Oh, very good. Yeah. Can you compare yourself now opposed to when you first started scoring film? How have you evolved as a songwriter to the film scoring projects?
Well, I don't know that I've evolved because it doesn't feel that way. I mean, I am older, and that certainly, with that comes life's lessons. I think that, probably you guys know this, and I think a lot of people know this as you come out of your teenage years and you get into your sort of figuring yourself out years, and then you get into your 30s and stuff. Everything's a life lesson, and all those lessons, they sort of work, for me, they work in my career, and they work in the way that I work on music and my approach to things, and I take all of that with me, good and bad, baggage or not. It comes with me, and everything I hear, everything I see somehow distills down into everything that I do. And I feel like I will always be learning. It doesn't matter what I do. If I'm fortunate enough to continue to work in that medium, I feel like whatever I do next, I will approach with the same sort of newness that I will on the 50th thing, because it's all an adventure, more so than music. But I still feel that way about music too, because I love all genres of music. So anytime I work on something, I like to skip and jump around in genres when I'm working on stuff. So I don't know. I suppose in some respect I have evolved, but it never feels that way to me. I think that's up to somebody else. Yeah. That's up to the listener.
Yeah, very good.
Nice. You kind of alluded to Sparkle Plenty Records. Can you talk to us a little bit more about the decision to form that record company, and how's that going for you?
Sparkle Plenty. Sparkle Plenty was another one of, I have like a lot of strange things happened during the pandemic, and one of those things was I was contacted through Instagram, of all places, from this guy, Jeff Keller, who is a manager and has a management company. And he wrote me a really nice note, which is really great to get from social media. And it's great to get it in the middle of a lockdown and feeling really weird about everything. And I wrote him back, and I had met him, I think, when I was 24. And he was a fan of Lions and Ghosts, this band I was in the 80s. And he wrote me and he said, "Do you remember meeting me? Blah, blah, blah. I just wanted you to know that you had a huge impact on my life. And when I got married, the song that you wrote, we played at my wedding." And he had all these wonderful things to say, right? And I'm like, I was feeling probably pretty down and insecure at the time. And so he said, "Hey, do you want to jump on a Zoom call?" And I said, "Sure, whatever that is, I'll do that." I don't know what a Zoom call is, but sure, let's do that. Is it like FaceTime? Okay. So he and I started having weekly meetings on Zoom, and we talked about our personal lives. We talked about music. We talked about how we were just talking about how fucked up the music industry was, and we just talked about how every year things change. And look, I'm sure my father said that, my mother said that, and my friends and I all made fun of our parents for saying back when I was a kid, right? Yeah. So we were having that kind of conversation. Only it seems to be escalating, and it seems to be happening at a much more rapid rate. Things are evaporating because the internet has changed things or whatever. So as we were having these conversations, he asked me, what do you want to do with your career? And I said, I wish I knew. I know that I can't have the same career that I used to have. Nobody can. Mm-hmm. Everyone has to have a different career. Yeah. And it even changed more from that conversation till now. So at some point he said to me, I'd really like to work with you. Would you be into having a manager? And I never personally had a manager. I did, when I was younger and I was in a band. I said, okay, well, what does that mean? What does that entail? We talked about it some more. And so I said, yeah, let's do this, and let's talk about all the scenarios that go with that. So we did. And so I signed like a one-page contract, which was super refreshing with him. And 2 weeks later, he calls me up and he goes, so I got you a record deal. I said, what? You got me a record deal? What am I going to do with a record deal? Like, I'm not that kind of artist. I'm a right-hand man.
Yeah.
I like to go in and I like to help people realize whatever their vision or dream is. And he said, well, I mean, he said, you could produce other artists and put that out on your own label or whatever. And I went, aha. Yeah. Here's an idea. I could help other people. That might be a really fantastic idea. How do we do that? So lots of conversations, and we ended up deciding to start a label, and we made a list of things that we wanted to do on that label. And then he and I had this dumb inside joke. When I met him in the 1980s, the band I was in, we had all these slogans, as you did in the 1980s. What was, remember Frankie Goes to Hollywood, theirs was Relax. Right. Or maybe there was, remember the T-shirts that used to say Choose Life. There was just slogans everywhere. Yeah. Well, Lions and Ghosts had some really winners. We had one, it was Wake Up Sex Junkies. Nice. Whatever that means, right? Okay. Be yourself. We just had all these slogans, and at the time, we thought that it was so great. Well, I suppose I went rogue one day, and I wrote Sparkle Plenty when I signed the record to my manager, Jeff. So our joke was always Sparkle Plenty, whatever the hell that means.
Nice.
I have no idea what it meant, but at the time, I'm sure I was pleased as punch to write on his record, Sparkle Plenty, Michael Lockwood. So anyway, we decided to call our label Sparkle Plenty, and he goes, don't you want to call it Sparkle Plenty Records? And I said, well, what if we make movies? What if we make books? And he goes, I like where you're going with all this. Okay, we'll just call it Sparkle Plenty. So that's how that all came to be. And then from there, we started talking about what we wanted to do. And the first thing I really, really wanted to do is I wanted to figure out how to help John Broder, who is the singer of Bird Streets, who we mentioned quickly beforehand. And I was working with him a little bit during the pandemic in the beginning, and then more later when we got deeper in it. And I ended up arranging a song for him and then producing a song. And he just was such a magical writer and such a great lyricist and an old soul. And I loved his project. I wanted to help him. So John was our first signing to Sparkle Plenty.
Oh, so nice. Cool. Maybe this is a threefold question here, but as far as you and your professional life, where do you get the most satisfaction? Do you get it from being a composer for scoring films? Do you get it from being a businessman? Or is it still the ultimate goal is to get up there on stage and play live? Where are you at?
Well, good question. That's a very good question. The thing is, I will say this. All of it gives me great satisfaction, and I'm one of the luckiest fuckers in the world to get to do what I do for a living. It's been a long time. Well, I've never been behind a desk, but it's been a long time since I went to work in one building the same time every day or whatever. I have most of my life either been behind a guitar, behind a computer, behind the mixing desk. I've been really fortunate. Or I've been on a stage in front of people playing. And to answer your question, it kind of rotates. It used to be that I couldn't wait to get on the road. And I got so much satisfaction out of being on stage and being next to great musicians playing great music and watching people smile and having a great time. That's so rewarding. So that's a big high. That's a great adrenaline rush. Mm-hmm. And I love that. But if you do that long enough, if you're in a bus or a hotel room and you're away from your girlfriend, wife, children, dog, cat. If you're away from any of those things long enough, you so long to be back there, which means you want to be there, but you want to do what you do. That means you want to be in the studio. So it's like, I'd long to be in the studio. And then after being in the studio for a while, you can't wait to get back on the road. So it's a weird revolving door. And these days, I haven't been on the road in years. And I have played the occasional show with Bird Streets, which I really love. That's a lot of fun. But, I have 2 teenage daughters that are 14 years old. And there's lots of things that I want to impart on them, and I don't want to miss any moment to say, that's a great decision, that's a really dumb decision, remember to be kind, don't forget to buy your mom flowers on all those things to me are equally important and more important. That's my number one job. All the other jobs I have as a musician or a producer or to own a record label, those all now sit slightly below that, but it's what I've done all my life, and it's what I love, and it's kind of the only thing I really know how to do. And I also want to teach my kids how to do some of those things. I recently got married, and so there's that happening in my life. I care for my mother. I have a lot of jobs, so I don't end up going on the road, but that doesn't mean that I won't, because I may very well go. I mean, if the right situation came together, I would go do that, because I do miss that too. And the label is really fun. I'm super lucky because, there's people that tell me no, but ultimately I can convince them that, yes, we should do double vinyl at 45, and we should do different colors, all the fun stuff.
Sure. So you've worked with some big names, and you've worked with some big female names in the rock and roll world, being Aimee Mann, Fiona Apple, Suzanne Hoffs, just to name a few. I guess when I name these 3 ladies off, can you kind of compare and contrast what it's like working with those 3 ladies? Are there similarities? Are there big differences?
Well, see, I told you I was lucky. I was very fortunate, and, I'm not quite sure how that happens, because I came from an era where it wasn't so easy to work in the industry. The industry's really changed now, where people can actually sit at home, record in their bedroom, and become a giant TikTok star, right? There's all that stuff happens. So we live in a much different world. I was in a band, I played in that band, some people liked that band, and those people would talk to other people. And then, you meet people at record companies, you meet people at the agents. It was almost all word of mouth when I started doing what I did. Mm-hmm. And I came out of being in a band that was signed. I was a little disillusioned because it was really hard work to get a record deal. It was really hard work to make records. And it was really disappointed that they didn't quite do what maybe you had hoped they would do. And they also didn't quite do what everyone told you they would. So I really had to rethink things, and I didn't know what that was. And for a while that was starting new bands, because that's what I knew, and writing songs and trying to put together something that people would enjoy. And then just by happenstance, a friend of mine, Jason Faulkner, who you may know, who's played with lots of great people. He played with Beck, he plays with St. Vincent. He makes great music on his own. He makes great records. He's a great producer. That bastard. He's a super wonderful guy, and we were friends. And I used to go see, he was in a band called The Grays. Do you remember that band?
Yes. Yeah.
Do you guys know that band? Okay, so amazing, amazing band. And he was playing in The Grays with John Bryan. John Bryan is Aimee Mann's producer, but also John was playing guitar with Aimee on the road. And I was not really sure what the heck I wanted to do next. And oddly, Jason came to me and he said, hey, I was talking to John Bryan, and he said that he's not going to be playing guitar on the road with Aimee anymore. And we were both talking about how you would be perfect to work with Aimee. I went, oh, that's super sweet. Thank you so much. I mean, you know, what happens now? Like, okay, that's a cool idea, but what does that mean? So Jason and I went and saw John and Aimee play a show at the Roxy in LA, and Dave Gregory from XGC was playing. It was an amazing show. The band was so great that it was slightly intimidating, and I'm like, oh, okay. Those are the shoes that you want me to fill. Fantastic. Okay, good. So I told Jason, I said, listen, the music's amazing. Her solo record at that time was just the first record. I said, it's so good. And clearly she's made great records with Till Tuesday. And so, yes, I'm interested. I don't know what happens next. So about a week later, I get a phone call, and it's Aimee. And I was working part-time at a guitar store, vintage guitar store in Hollywood on Sunset Boulevard. And she said, I'm going to swing by today and say hello. And I was like, okay, all right. So she came by with John Bryan, who I knew, and they also brought Jack Joseph Puig, incredible engineer producer, right?
Yeah.
And we went for this long walk around Sunset Boulevard, and I think we went over to the famous Sunset Grill, ate a garden burger, and chatted about music. And Aimee asked me what I was doing, and I told her that I'd written about a bunch of songs by myself, and I'd given it a band name. She said she wanted to hear it, so I gave her a reel-to-reel tape as a demo, because that's all I had. And she called me like an hour later after I saw her and said, I'm in the studio tonight with John. Why don't you come by and play on something? So I came in while she was working on I'm Was Stupid, and I played on the first track, Long Shot. And we sat up all night and talked, and we hit it off. And that was sort of my gateway drug into what the 90s would look like for me. And it was a strange phenomena that I ended up going on the road with Aimee. We became really good friends. As that was finishing, I got a phone call. I think it was from Susanna Hoff's manager. And he said, I saw you play with Aimee Mann at this such and such show. I think you'd be really great with Susanna. She's making a video. Will you come be in the video? So then I went and met Susanna, and we hit it off. We became friends. And I spent a year working with her, promoting her first solo record that she did for London. And we did all kinds of stuff, but mostly it was just her and I. So we went to Asia, we went all over Europe, and I had an incredible experience with her. We went in the studio and did a song. And then as that wound down, I think I went back to Aimee for some work. And then I got some friends of mine who were working with this girl named Fiona Apple. Yeah. And I went record shopping with Patrick Warren, who I've now known forever. And Patrick and I were music shopping. He goes, oh, I'm working on this great project. You'd love it. So he played me demos from Fiona's first record. And I said, I want to do that. I want to be on that. And Andy Slater, who we all knew, everybody knows everybody in LA. So as Fiona went on the road, Andy called me and he said, there's not a ton of guitar on it, but I could really see you being on the road with everybody, and I think it would work out great. So that's how I met all three of those women. And I spent almost a full decade going back and forth between the three of them. And there was so many cross intersection. I mean, we could do 10 podcasts about the times that I've sat and I've talked to Paul Thomas Anderson, who was coming in the studio while I was working with Aimee, and I didn't know that he was writing Magnolia. And Aimee and I just written a song. He kept telling me, you're going to be very happy with me. And I later found out it's because he put my song in his movie. Yeah. Hi. Yeah. Very, very, very happy. But, you know, he told me that backstage while opening at Madison Square Garden with Fiona Apple for the Stones. I mean, the stories are insane. There's just never enough. But really fortunate, really lucky to work with all of those women. They are all truly amazing. I emailed with Susanna Hoffs not that long ago and said hi, and I sent her the Bird Street stuff because I thought she'd really enjoy it. And Aimee I talked to a bit here and there, either on Instagram or we text each other a bit, but she came and played on some Bird Street stuff. She's on one of the tracks on the record that just came out, and she's also on another song that will be either album 3 or 4, because John is such a prolific writer. But you know, that was that journey, and in between that journey there was all kinds of sessions with I worked with a lot of women. You know, I just did. It just was my lot in life. I mean, my house is 2 teenage daughters, my mom, my wife, and my female dog. So I live with 5 females. I am always surrounded.
Nice.
I guess you are.
Well, yeah, I guess my only question about Lions and Ghosts, I saw recently that Velvet Kiss, Lick of the Lime. I love that title. I was listening to that today, and I saw it was recently released on a digital platform. Is there any plans to re-release it, the physical product?
Well, so just to sort of backtrack on the story, when I was talking to Jeff, my manager, and we were talking about Sparkle Plenty, we made a list of like all these different projects and like things I wanted to do. And literally like 10th on the list was I would really love to re-release at least the first Lions and Ghosts record, because it's not on any streaming platforms.
Right.
I'm sorry, but that's dumb. I didn't get that. It's like, you know, if you flip through Apple Music, Spotify, Qobuz, Tidal, you name it, there's just about anything and everything that was ever released. But, you know, for whatever reason, the Lions and Ghosts stuff never did. And there is a part of me that wanted me to do that for my kids because I'm a dad. And the other part was, you know, look, maybe there's the Kate Bush phenomena for Lions and Ghosts, right? You never know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I went back and I listened to the first record when we started talking about doing it, and I went, you know, it's a pretty good record. The songs are good. They're solid songs, and the production isn't overtly 80s. It actually holds up pretty well. I went, okay, I feel really good about trying to figure out how to do this. So we were able to get through all the red tape, and I had some original 12-inch mixes from the 80s, like 4 or 6 of them. We had 2 B-sides, and I went, that might be nice to release that as a digital package and do it in high-res, because I'm a big believer in high-res music. Mm-hmm. And the only reason we didn't go down the CD, which I still feel like is a viable medium, and I do feel like in some strange way, believe it or not, I feel it gaining a little ground. It's having a little resurgence.
It is.
Yeah. As, you know, just like vinyl did. I think vinyl had a resurgence 10 years ago, and it just keeps getting bigger, which I love. I'm very happy about. But maybe some people who might be younger are enjoying the fact of owning something and having ownership of it. It gives it more value. I think most people would agree with that. Like, if it's tangible and you say that it's yours and you see it and it's not zeros and ones, it has a little more value.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. And I think that people get that for vinyl for sure. And I do see some of my friends posting on Insta and Facebook and Twitter and stuff about how they're enjoying CDs again. So we just didn't go down there because the record is Lions and Ghosts first record is still out there in the physical world. And if you wanted a copy, you could find a copy on Discogs or eBay or, you know, or
Sure.
Pinterest or something. So I just didn't make a ton of sense, but it's funny. A lot of people have asked, like a lot of people want a re-release of the vinyl.
Yeah.
So I don't know, maybe that's something down the road. We have talked about the fact that perhaps we should release the second Lions and Ghosts record because I have so much material from that time period, and we made a huge sonic leap, for better or worse, from our first record to our second record, and really changed directions. And I'm not super pleased with the choices we made, but I do have early demos that were recorded not long after the first record for the second record. So that might be interesting to musos or, people that are fans of music of the 80s or fans of Lions and Ghosts to see the transformation. So that could be a fun project for next year. We need to talk about it. We're working with some younger artists for Sparkle Plenty, and that's what I've been focusing on lately.
Oh, awesome. Fantastic. Well, we're out of our allotted time for the evening. Is there anything that we left off tonight that you would like to plug or promote?
I think we've talked about a lot of things. I would love to mention the fact that Bird Streets has a wonderful record named Lagoon.
Yes.
It's out on Sparkle Plenty. It is a great piece of art with great songs. The artwork is beautiful. The vinyl comes out next month. It's double vinyl. It's this beautiful blue color that sort of matches the album cover. There's lyrics. There's tons of credits. There's lots of interesting people that worked on the record. Pat Sansone from Wilco produced songs on it. Jody Stevens from Big Star plays drums on some of it. I had Aimee Mann come in. Ed Harcourt, the lovely gentleman from the UK, who's an incredible artist and songwriter, played on Sleeper Agent. There's some great East Coast people that worked on it. I really can't sing his praises enough. So I'd ask everybody to go out and do that. And then if you're having an 80s flashback moment, look up Lions and Ghosts. And if you're feeling dark, depressed, and alone, please listen to the soundtrack from As the Village Sleeps.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, this is how things are going to work out. Jeff, the editing wizard over here, will get it all cleaned up for us, and we'll get it to your PR people. Thanks, man.
Okay, you too. You guys have a great time. Thanks for all the questions.
Take care, man.
You.
Good night.
Okay, you too. Good night.
says their last goodbyes. Move to the sunshine, fight the grip of nights. If they ever